The Minneapolis Police Department has lost 300 officers since 2018, close to 40% of their force. On Friday, the Minneapolis City Council voted against bonuses for both veteran officers and new recruits. Right now, a starting officer in Blaine makes about $93,000 a year. A starting officer in Minneapolis makes about $71,000. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says that makes it tough to recruit new officers. And Chief O'Hara is here live. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Esme.
All right, I know you are not happy about what happened on Friday when they voted against these retention bonuses and recruitment bonuses. Would have been $18,000 for veteran officers spread out over 3 years, $6,000 a year, $15,000 for new recruits. What are you going to do?
Well, I think if we look at the research that's out there, the DOJ report, the Police Executive Research Forum, it's clear that retention incentives are something that's recommended. And I think we also have to acknowledge that sign-on bonuses are just very common today. And for the last year that I've been here, this department has continued to get smaller, and we've been talking for over a year now about making financial investments to correct that. And I think the most important thing now we have to focus on is finalizing the police contract with a raise in it that reflects the reality that this is probably the toughest job in policing in America today.
Right. The job right here in Minneapolis as compared to some of the suburbs. No disrespect to Blaine here. I want to ask you, we were talking before the show and you mentioned, I was asking about other incentives, and you mentioned that when you were a young officer in Newark, the city waived $5,000 in closing costs.
That's right.
For your home, so you and your family could live in Newark.
That's right.
Has anything like that been brought up here? Because that seems to make so much sense.
Yeah, we haven't had those conversations yet. Over the last year, the conversations have been focusing on these sign-on bonuses because that's what exists elsewhere across the country and also locally in Minnesota. But that's definitely something that I think we could offer and explore, and it would help encourage not only more residents to come on the police department, but more of our officers that are here to buy and invest in the community as well.
In the city, and I don't know, I mean, it would be good, I think, for all police departments across the state to do that as an incentive and as something that they deserve. In terms of recruiting, just tell us some of the numbers you've had this year, because it's pretty dismal, but you can understand it. Yeah. You know, with a $22,000 difference in starting salary. Yeah,
I mean, well, you know, beginning of 2020, the department had close to 900 officers. Today, the total number of sworn members is 579. And that doesn't even mean that's who's actually coming to work, who's available. That's the total number that we have. And the reality is, as the department has gotten smaller, we've had to rely more and more on mandatory overtime. And that creates burnout, and it also dissuades the younger generation from coming here. The younger generation wants more of a work-life balance, so it keeps folks from coming here. At the same time, the community is less satisfied with the services that we provide. So it kind of puts us into this spiral that we're trying to break out of, and I think we need to make financial investments to try and break out of that.
Okay. All right, let's talk about some crime stats, because let's look at shots fired first, because this is something that's really positive. We've seen a big drop. This is year to year, 2023 so far, 2022 at the same point. That's a big drop. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's over 2,500 fewer calls for shots fired across the city. That combined with about 20 fewer murders this year and about 160 fewer people shot, that's real. At the same time, you know, I go to crime scenes and I do the numbers in my head. You know, this week alone, there have been 16 people shot in this city. We have a very limited number of investigators to bring justice in those cases. And that's the urgency of the problem right now. Not only have we lost almost 40% of the department, we have lost centuries of experience. And it's very difficult in this state to be licensed as the police officer.
Right, and you made these arguments at that City Hall meeting. I watched some of it online, and obviously went nowhere with the Minneapolis City Council. We do want to talk about motor vehicle thefts, because this one is a big one. Here, the numbers are not that great. You've got a year-over-year increase. The 5,194 figure is 2022 year-to-date. That's 6,937. I know you just had a big program. You were out there with people upgrading the software in their Hyundais and Kias. Have you noticed a drop since then? It's only been about a week or so.
There has not been a drop, you know, but the increase has slowed. This problem is driven entirely by the theft of certain Kia and Hyundai vehicles, period. And the problem is driven because these types of cars are being manufactured in a way that the auto theft prevention mechanisms are what we had in the 80s and early 90s. And because of a social media campaign that exploited that with young people, they're very easily stolen. If we could eliminate this problem, we would have a decrease in
one
auto
thing I
theft.
didn't understand because I was out there at your clinic is that once they put the software upgrade, they put a sticker on that's transparent, that's about this big on the window. I mean, are people stealing cars really going to look for that sticker?
Yeah, I'm not confident that that's going to have much of an effect. I certainly encourage folks to use a steering wheel lock device, not leave valuables, leave their car locked. But the reality is, to stop this problem, not only in Minneapolis but nationally, we have to get to a critical mass where most of these cars are stolen, so that the crooks learn if they try and break into one of these cars, they're not going to be able to steal it. Until that happens, even folks who have this software update in their car are still at risk of being victimized. The car might not be gone, but the ignition cylinder would be damaged, and a thief could still try and steal their car.
All right, well, Chief O'Hara, thank you so much for stopping by this Sunday morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.